Hello guys, and welcome to this guide on how to climb with Sy'fen. First off, let's look at why we want to play this comp right now. The comp has a very solid mid-game, with Sy'fen 1 stabilizing you very hard in stage 4. The comp is very simple to play and comes with easy transitions, and the comp is super strong in the mid right now, one of the best performing comps. And lastly, Sy'fen is very flexible with items. Sy'fen utilizes the Whisper trait, stealing attack damage, while using his ability to dash and stun deep into the enemy backline. Items like Bloodthirster and Quicksilver provide survivability and allow Sy'fen to stack up the AD, potentially one-tapping even the tankiest of units. Meanwhile, the Bruiser trait provides survivability while your Whisper units ramp up. Now if you hear from my guide for Xiu, it's very good to know both of these comps, they share a lot of items and it's super easy to flex between them. If you know both of these comps right now, you're gonna climb very consistently. Sy'fen's core items are Bloodthirster and Quicksilver. The best third item is Giant Slayer, but you can also use Titans or Rageblade, and Infinity Edge is also acceptable. To turn Sy'fen into a 1v9 machine, these supporting items also work really well. Seeks provides a little bit of extra attack speed, while Shroud and Frozen Heart helps with delaying the enemy team, giving Sy'fen more time to scale even further. On first Carousel, you want to go for Sword, that builds into Giant Slayer, Bloodthirster, or Infinity Edge. You can also go for Bell or Chain, that builds into Sunfire. Sunfire is still super solid, especially when you play around Bruisers. Or you can go for Bow, that builds into Rageblade, Giant Slayer, or Titans. Early game, you want to play around these core units. At level 5, we can play Thresh for Guardian, and you want to stack your damage items on Yuna, and stack your tank items on Leona, since she's the first tank we sell when we transition later. At level 6, you can then play Silas to get another Bruiser on your board, and to get Whispers online. And there you have it, that's the first opener. 2 Whispers is quite effective early game, since you still get the armor and the MR shred from the trait, so you're gonna have a much easier time killing the enemy frontline. Now if you didn't hit Yuna, but you hit an Olaf instead, we can sack Yuna and Leona from this comp, and then we can just play Braum and Olaf instead, giving us 4 Bruisers and swapping the Mirage for scale scoring instead. Here we put the damage items on Olaf and the tanky items on Braum. Now once you reach stage 4, you want to level to 7 and start rolling for Sy'fen. Once you hit Sy'fen, you sack Olaf or Yuna, play the Sy'fen and put the items on him. From here, we can sack Braum, and if you find Elise, you can play her for 6 Whispers. And then for the mid game, you can put your tanky items on Silas. Now we have a super solid mid game board that should easily be able to carry us into the late game. Now if you don't hit Elise or Thresh, we can play 6 Bruisers. We just add Olaf and Elawi, giving us 6 Bruiser and Warrior as well. Also a very solid mid game board, so much HP on your whole team here. Eventually you can sack Tahm Kench and play Ornn instead. He's a much better unit and his stun is just so good. At level 8 we can play Kiana, which gives us Tempest. And from here, once you hit it, you want to swap to 6 Whispers. From here we can duo carry Elise. She works really well with AP damage items and some healing. And if you get a fully stacked Elise like this here, you probably want to swap out the Kiana and play Shapeshifter instead to buff up the Elise. At level 9 we can play Yasuo, giving us Warrior. This guy is a beast, you always want to play this guy in your final board. And from here we can change out Thresh and put in Pyke instead, who's a stronger Whisper unit overall. If you hit a Pyke too, you can do carry him instead of Elise. He wants the same items, but he also works really well with Infinity Edge. Now if you end up carrying Pyke instead, you don't really want to run Shapeshifters. Instead, you want to play Kiana for both Tempest and Assassin. Now instead, if you hit more AD items and some tank items, you want to itemize Yasuo. He works really well with tank items, some damage and some healing. The leveling for this comp uses the standard forecast carry leveling curve. You want to pre-level to 4 on 1-4 if you're sitting on a lot of 2-cost pairs, else you level to 4 on 2-1. Next you need to decide if you want to pre-level to 5 into the Carousel. You do this if you're win streaking and still sitting on a lot of 2-cost or maybe even 3-cost pairs, else you level to 5 on 2-5. Try to hit 20 gold into Crux, that's good Econ, and then on 3-2 we level to 6 and roll for a bit of upgrades. As a rule of thumb, you don't want to roll below 20 to keep some Econ. Solid Econ and a good leveling curve is super essential to winning games. If you learn how to do this, you're gonna climb so much more consistently. Now for the late game, on 4-1 we always level to 7 and roll for our core units. Again, try not to spend all your gold, you still want some gold left to Econ so you can hit level 8. If you didn't have to roll a lot for your board and you hit a lot of upgrades on 4-1, you can level 8 on 4-5. If you had to roll a lot and you're not super rich, you can do it on 5-1. Now bear in mind that the intervals after Treasure Dragon changed a bit with the recent update. Now you don't get experience and gold on Treasure Dragon, so the curve looks like this now. If you're mega high rolled, you can go fast 9 on 5-3. Normally you do it on 6-1, 6-3 or 6-6. Lastly, let's look at what augments are good when you're playing Sy'fen. You want to mainly go for combat augments that make Sy'fen stronger and allows him to 1v9. Celestial Blessing is great, it's more healing for Sy'fen, and CV2 and 3 can allow you to sub out the Bloodthirster for another damage item. Cybernetic Implants and Cybernetic Shell provides more HP and more offensive or defensive stats that Sy'fen can really make good use of. First Aid Kit means even more healing, and it also scales off of Celestial Blessing. Weak Spot amplifies your damage by ignoring armor, and it also provides healing reduction for your whole team. This means that if you take this one, you don't have to build Sunfire. Second Wind is great, especially into bruisers. You have such a big HP pool, so the percentage healing is really big in this one. And the same goes for Electrocharge. This one also scales off of your unit's tankiness. And since you're playing bruisers most of the game, this one has a lot of value. Bruiser Heart and Whisper Heart is good at tier 1. I wouldn't recommend taking tier 2 or tier 3, I don't think it's worth it. However, Assassin Crest you do want to take at tier 2. Assassin Emblem on Sy'fen is so good, he just jumps to the backline and completely pops off. Sunfire Board, easy pick, very good augment into any comp. And again, don't build Sunfire Cape if you already have this one. Portable Forge and Living Forge are great. Some of my top picks for Sy'fen are Infinity Force and Death's Defiance. And meanwhile, if you're missing a frontline item, Anime Visage and Eternal Winter provide a lot of frontline for your team. Lastly, we have Verdant Veil, which provides CC immunity for your whole team. This just means that your Sy'fen gets to roam freely without getting bothered by CC. And that is the end of this guide. Remember to sub and leave a like if this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.